All right, you guys. Thank you so much for coming to our Disruptor Discussions masterclass. I feel like really in the swing of things. I was so nervous the first one we did, and now we're almost a month in, and I'm feeling like we're in the groove, and I get so excited about this. And gosh, I'm really excited about our guest today that I will be introducing you to this rock star in a few minutes. But I'm going to start by introducing myself and telling you why we're all here. So my name is Jennifer Frye, and I am the CEO of Appreciated Asset Business Solutions. We create, build, and fill sales pipelines for industry disruptors. And we do that with our Sales Accelerator, which is a done-for-you concierge-level appointment setting service. To give you a little background, I started the business 6 years ago after really spending my whole career in sales in some form or fashion, and developed an expertise in that top of the funnel activity during that time, prospecting and appointment setting, and really opening doors and seeing connections for people that they didn't necessarily see for themselves. Our mission at Appreciated Asset is to create a ripple effect for incredible businesses and helping them grow their footprint with the right prospects and the right new clients. And our purpose is to create a stage to highlight those industry disruptors and highlight them for their courage to stand out against status quo, their courage to disrupt the industry and do things differently from the way it's always been done before, because that takes courage and that takes guts. So, all right. So our weekly masterclass we put together because it's really the best way that we can introduce to you experts that are going to help you grow your businesses. Because while that's what we're here to do, there's a lot of other brilliant minds out there that are doing this in very different ways. And I want everyone to have the opportunity to meet these incredible people that I've been meeting over the last several years. So, disruptor. I was always called disruptive as a kid. It was never as a compliment. But what I've learned as I've grown up and grown into my power is that is actually my superpower. That is something that's really special about me, is that I look at things, and just because they've always been done a certain way, I realize that if we can do them better, why not? Sorry if we ruffle a few feathers, but at the end of the day, what matters is that you are able to do the best work for your clients in a way that they deserve and really stand outside the status quo. So that's what a disruptor is for me. I get this question a lot of, well, what do you mean by a disruptor? It's someone who just is ready to be bold, is ready to say, just because it's always been done this way doesn't mean it always has to be done this way, and we can actually do it better. Disruptor Discussions is where we're really committed to helping businesses grow through our business, but fully believing that there are zero business problems that more revenue cannot solve. If you find me one, I'd love to hear it, because I have yet to find a single problem in a business that cannot be solved with more revenue. So while we create more revenue for our clients, there's all of these incredible expertises and minds and businesses out there that are doing that from very different perspectives and angles. And we are here to give you a stage, if you will, to highlight those incredible minds. A little bit about what's new with us. I mentioned it last week, but we are growing our YouTube channel. My son Max was the first to tell me that I've got to tell people to like and subscribe. So there is my plug, according to my 10-year-old. Like and subscribe. Please come on. I am now in the double digits for subscribers, which is super humbling when I see some of the videos he watches with millions of subscribers. But I digress. Okay. So please come on and check that out. And that's where all this content is going to live. As resources for you. So if you miss an episode, you can always get that really great information on YouTube. Okay, I am so excited and honored to introduce Rudy Miick. Rudy and I met a few years ago, and we've become fast friends, colleagues, and collaborators. And I just am in awe of him. I could go on, but here's the deal. So Rudy's warmth, his authenticity are unmatched. When I introduce people to Rudy, they reach out to me and thank me for just the opportunity to know him. He's that special. And I make a lot of introductions, you guys. I don't get a lot of thank yous, but every time I connect Rudy with someone, they spend the time to tell me thank you, if that says anything at all. Rudy brings compassion, curiosity, and creativity to every interaction, and he's always ready to serve those around him. So I was lucky enough to meet him in Denver last October when I was out there for a conference. Hope we can do it again this fall. And I'm going to go ahead and read his bio for you and hand it over so he can share what he's here to share with us today. Rudy is the founder and president of the Miick companies. He knows the how-to of values-driven culture of change, growth, performance, and profitability. Focused predominantly in the world of restaurants, hospitality, and manufacturing, he's worked with over 3,200 clients and 300 startups, all focused on making the world a better place. At the same time, they drive high double-digit profit. He brings mindfulness and emotional intelligence to all his work. So I'm going to hand things over to Rudy. If you guys have questions, please drop them in the Q&A section, and we will be getting to all of those after we hear from him. So Rudy, share your screen and take it away. Thank you for being here.
Okay. Thank you, Jennifer, for that lovely introduction. And it is great to be here. And you shared with me this additional lovely gift just prior to going on camera, that I'm the first male presenter. So I am deeply touched to be in the ranks of first in. So what a field you're creating. Thank you so much. So to all of us here together, the goal is to share with you what typically shows up in a year to 3 years of work in 20 minutes. So the headline is, what do you want? And here's how to get it. And a classic Gestalt question that ties to any organization, any system, any business is, what do I want and what do we need? Keep asking that magic question as we're going along, and let's see where we go. So some headlines. For you and your company, regardless of the industry we're in, the talk today really is to focus on the end. So when we complete all the goals, what is the exit? What is the opportunity? And God forbid there's an emergency of some sort, what do we do with it? And along the way, in any dialogue, what does excellence look like? What is the opportunity to take any dialogue and put it towards growth and effective accomplishment of what that I want and we need is? And ultimately, again, regardless of industry, what does effective growth and getting what we want actually look like? So I'm going to, with that, start really with the end in mind. I was mentored at very early age to think about, how do I run my company if I'm not there, instead of having to be there? So I started my consulting business and my world of work in the world of restaurants. And that industry is notorious for the owner having to be there. And the whole concept of our career, or my career, was, wait, how do I be in Hawaii and run a restaurant in New York, or pick a place anywhere in the world? So headline one, beware the red truck. What the heck does that even mean? Okay, I want to set up systems and clarity of my business, so I put a fire out once, not every day. Owners, managers think busy is being effective, being at work. How do we put a fire out once as opposed to dealing with drama 80 times a day? Okay, how this shows up in exit or in emergency is, within exit, we've got systems in place. Here's classic. I get asked the question, tell me about your accounting system. Oh, Robbie does that. Tell me about your HR system. Oh, Sally and Jose do that. Okay, that's not a system and that's not an exit. Okay, and actually, if you ever want to take your company public, the process to even get through the IPO, if somebody's name, here's a headline, somebody's name is in the place of accounting instead of, oh, we have a system for that, you're not going to get what you want. So how do we move, whether we're a family-owned business or we're, again, from day one building, imagining having 10 units or 20 units or a corporation that's massive, how do we put a system in place that gets us what we want? That is incumbent and critical for exit, to sell, to bequeath, to do whatever. Here's the deal with the red truck. The magic question is, what happens to my company if tomorrow I step onto the street and somebody hits me with a red truck? I use that to bring a little bit of a smile and a little bit of humor to a not very funny issue that unfortunately happens an awful lot of times. For folks on the call that are from the West Coast, or perhaps you, regardless of where you live, you know this company, but there's a phenomenal burger chain called In-N-Out Hamburger. It's one of the best companies out there, in my opinion, for a whole lot of reasons. About 20 years ago, their whole executive team was killed in one plane. Plane went down, the company almost died along with the leaders because all the intelligence went down with the plane. Same thing. So red truck, plane, whatever the case is, fill in the blanks, have systems in place, especially in case of emergency. So I'll leave it there, okay? In any dialogue, headline, how do we add value and do no harm in any action with any guest? Add value, do no harm. This is a headline. It's a really, really good guideline for us and for any staff member anywhere. Second, be kind instead of air quotes, trying to be nice. One of my favorite questions with training and with development of managers and an exec team is, how much truth are we telling when we're trying to be nice? Instead, how do we be kind and direct in dialogue and feedback and coaching and developing those systems that we were just talking about to avoid the red truck? Okay. Along the way, a guidepost for this is the concept of intimate and strategic, or perhaps think of being personal and strategic. Meaning, hey, and this will support being kind, I really care about you. I want you to be successful. I'm so glad you're here. And this is the performance we need instead of the performance we've been getting. What needs to change? So that intimacy, that personal piece, is really allowing the sharing and the care with any position, with any team, with any leader, and with any process that we're putting in place that will support us to build our company. Intimate. I care about you. I want you to be successful. You meaning a person, a team, a group, a department. And strategically, this is the performance. What's it going to take? How clear are you about those two pieces? Okay. Last but not least, behavior rather than compliments and criticism. How do we take and talk about behaviors so that drama goes away, personal bruising goes away? Most companies, in my experience, give feedback that is consistently, and most of us are aware of, oh, I can take it. Give me constructive criticism, right? Or wow, it's great to get a compliment. Rather, let's shift to behavior. What does this look like? So here's some example. When we hear words like, I need you to be professional. I need you to be excellent. Oh, do what Jennifer does. She's got such a great attitude. Except Jennifer is doing 200 different things, behaviors that all amass to that great attitude, that good attitude. Coming out of the world of restaurants and production and manufacturing and food service, we think a lot about the concept of clean. Hey, I need you to clean your desk. I need you to clean the counter. I need this area to be clean, and understand that I can't read your mind and neither can your team. How do we slow down and actually define something as simple as clean? How often are you and I disappointed as managers, as owners, as bosses, as coaches, when something's so, quote, sloppy, but to the person setting up, working as professionally as they can with as good an attitude as they can, and they leave a space sloppy, but to them, it's actually clean. All of these are what we would call meaning-making words. Anytime I get to a meaning-making word, oh, you're so professional. You have such a great attitude. You're so excellent. Those are compliments. Compliments are great to get. However, they're really hard to coach. So what is the behavior that we need to get to excellent? And if I'm the owner, I'm the leader, I'm the manager, this is also one of the ways we step into the system so we can exit effectively, grow effectively, and guess what? We get the behaviors and the performance we expect as professional because we are actually breaking down the attitude and actions that are professional. Okay, an example of that, direct eye contact, a smile that translates as authentic. When I walk in a door, I have my head up and I greet people, again, with direct eye contact and an authentic smile with an outreach verbally. Hey, how are you today? Hey, what can I do to help? Oh, translation, good attitude. Translation, excellent performance, etc. Those are a couple examples. Here's another headline that has really, really served me and my team over the years. Everything's an interview. Everything. Would I hire the behavior I just saw? Would I hire the behavior I just heard? If the answer is yes, celebrate. Yay, give me more of that. And if the answer is no, how do we course correct to behaviors? Simple as that. In the world of martial arts, typically as a person walks into a dojo, they'll bow. Did the person bow? What does that tell us? There's the interview right there. Here's someone coming in as a coach, as an instructor in my studio, and they walk through the door without bowing. There's the behavior I just experienced where the interview's already begun. Imagine what any job might be equivalent of that. Everything's an interview. Would I hire the behavior I just experienced? Here's another takeaway, one of our communication tools. A lot of my background is in Gestalt psychology, organizational development, and we're talking about how we get to collective I, how we get to the we and the our and the each of us and the every one of us as opposed to us and them. Those guys at corporate, those guys up in the C-suite. And notice the guys, whether it's women or men, irrelevant, the process of us and them versus we. So what I wanted to share in our time this morning very quickly, and all of us do this already, my offer is how do we be, each of us, be more cognizant, more conscious at any given moment There's 4 ways to say something. I can ask a question. What is it you really want? I can join you with please or thank you or I appreciate. Please share with us, what is it you want? The first is the question, we call it ally. What is it you really want? The second, please share with us, what is it you want? Hey, I'm interested. What is it you want? Let's figure out how to get it. Teacher, tell me, say what you want. Activist, now, go get it. So what at any given moment, there's 4 ways I can talk to anyone at any given time about any given topic. Jennifer earlier talked about her son Max, who's 10, right? With a young male and 10 years old, how I might position from guide. Hey, I'm interested, sweetheart. Please share with me, whatever it might be, right? With somebody else that I've just met, perhaps it's another position. But at any given moment, the magic question here is with this person in this moment about this topic, how do I position what it is I want and need? From a question, what is it? How is it? What will it take to get it? Guide, please share. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate you sharing. Teacher, tell us. Say what it is. Activist, yay, you got it out. Let's now go get it. There's so much more I can say about this slide, and it's a headline. One more piece. I've got 2 more real quick points. The world we're living in the moment is so polarized. All of us know this. So there's an opportunity and so much in the press and frankly, so much in writing out there about how do we deal with polarity. And this is work from a colleague of mine named Barry Johnson around the way to manage polarities. So with a startup or whatever you're doing with your company, oftentimes this is a polarity I hear a lot. Oh, I just love having a family feel to the business, or maybe the company actually is a family company. Well, and God forbid that we get too corporate. Oh no, right? But in fact, there's some benefit to family, but there's also benefit to corporate. So how do we play with this? And imagine working with this window pane. You can see there's positives and negatives to both. And by defining the positives of corporate, but also the negatives that we want to watch out for. Oh, there's no empathy in corporate. There's no patience with corporate. There's no human touch with corporate. Yeah, but there's also at family, there's nepotism, there is favoritism, there is not enough resource, there is whatever it might be. By actually marking out this window pane, what are the positives of each into the polarity? This might be corporate family, it might be profit versus people, it might be independence and autocracy versus teams. It could be any sort of polarity. By defining this, we literally create what is almost an infinity sign. And the second we get to the negative, we can consciously choose to stay in the positive. Obviously, again, lots of work we can play with this model alone. Last but not least, if you've got, we call this IVS decision making. So simple. If you've got, and it's one of the really terrific headlines about having definitive values for your company, definitive purpose or mission. Question, what's the issue at hand? Second, which values apply to this issue? The last question is, what are the behaviors that come out of those values that would model the values in action to get us to a solution. So here it says, which values apply, what behaviors show up. The values may also be any one of the communication tools we have, any one of the accounting tools. So you could translate the values to which tools apply, but what is the issue? And instead of spinning to a solution and spinning the values out later, like British Petroleum with an oil spill, what we can do is actually say, what's the issue? Which values, how does our purpose and mission, what actions do we have that will apply to this? What are the behaviors that come out of those values? Do that. And I will tell you, we've got, especially in restaurants, 16, 17-year-old young folks making million-dollar decisions effectively by using these two questions. Which values apply? What behaviors show up? Let's do that, move on. So, last but not least, know who we are, mission, values, purpose, fiscal acuity that's proactive, do your numbers. Money is fickle, right? It attaches when we pay attention to it. And instead of reacting and waiting for the financial statement to come out, how do we actually guide numbers every day, accrued to the week, accrued to the period, accrued to the quarter? How do we talk to each other around behaviors as opposed to compliments and criticism? From those three pieces of actually knowing why we are in business and what excellence actually is based on behaviors, what are measurements that support those behaviors in the fiscal realm, and then how do we communicate about that stuff? From those three pieces, we can begin to interview, train, and keep improving consciously to hit effective growth. That's it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I have only about 100 questions, but while I get started, it's just amazing how poignant this is, because there's some things you talked about that I really would like to dive into. While I get started, you guys, if you have questions for Rudy, go ahead and drop them in the chat, in the Q&A section, please, if you would. Okay, so Rudy, I'm gonna start with my 3 questions that I ask every guest, okay? The first question is, how does this expertise, how does this concept bring more revenue to a business?
From the things, so I love the question. This is part of disruption. So not to get ahead of myself, that last slide with those 6 steps.
Yeah.
Know who we are, fiscal acuity, and how we communicate consciously. We typically will drive bottom line performance 2 to 5 times industry norms. So as an example, if I use the restaurant industry again as an example, the median net profit in that industry is and has been for decades 3%. Our clients run at 18 to 25. Okay. Same thing in martial arts, same thing in the world of fitness, same thing in manufacturing. At that single digit profitability, we're running typically 18 to 20, 22% EBITDA or net profit. So yeah, 2 other things, if I may.
Yeah.
Is in, having come out of the pandemic and all just the chaos that we've had and everything that we're hearing about, I can't find good people and there's no loyalty and all that stuff. Engage, not only do we get in great people and keep them, they're engaged. So that we literally talk about ownership eyes, ownership attitude out of those tool sets that we've been talking about. And that performance, imagine having 50 staff or 5 staff that all have an ownership attitude and love being at work.
Absolutely.
It's so
Yeah.
cool.
I
So,
100% agree with you. And I think that as a business owner, really the goal is to have that self-managing team. Like we talked about right before this went live, we were just talking
yeah,
about that, and the only way you can do that is by having that team that takes the ownership.
100%. And again, I would say using, in real numbers, in the restaurant environment, turnover is typically 150 to 200% per annum. Within a quarter, we'll have turnover at 20%. And I'm not exaggerating,
It's
right?
remarkable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's almost too good to be true, except it is.
Well, that's why you
It
are,
is true.
that's why you are an expert in this space. Okay, second question is how are you a disruptor in this space? And I certainly have a lot of ideas of how you're disrupting consulting and how you're disrupting your, with your approach. But tell me how you believe you're a disruptor in your space.
Um, yeah, that's hard for me. I think there's probably three ways. One is that part of the fiscal management and all of this stuff that we've been talking about creating ownership attitude, we are disruptive in that I'm a devout believer in, and install open book management
Mhm.
and profit sharing, and any of the clients that we work with that are willing to go there. And again, performance just skyrockets. So the concept of, hey, a 16-year-old teenager or a 30-year-old single parent or whoever, college educated or not, suddenly has fiscal acuity, and we teach folks along the way to manage profitability in the company also translates to fiscal management at home. So that's exceedingly disruptive. And I think oftentimes we're misconstrued as non-capitalists, but it's anything but. It's like pure capitalism that enlivens the social fabric of our community, of the people that play with us.
Yeah.
So it's really
I
fun.
love that you really look at the entire person, not just what can they do in their 40 hours, what can they do
Yeah,
on their shift, what can they do, but how they can take
yeah,
it home as well. Because if you have an employee who is happy, who is balanced, who is unbothered, not stressed, not under constraints or pressure, they're going to also perform a lot better at work. So if you can give
100%.
support, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
love
100%. Can I give you two other just
that. Yes,
real quick?
do
Okay,
it.
so real quick, I think the disruptive piece as well is, and this is fairly recent to me. I've had some folks start talking to us about, hey, most consultants guide us to average, and you guide us to great. You guide us to breakthrough.
Mm,
So the disruptive is the stuff we're talking about, it's limitless. It is expand as high as we can. When we define excellence and we define the behaviors, people rise to it and exponential results occur. So it's like you're not going to get average with us. We're going to rattle the cage and question everything, including my own concepts of we work as a guide and coach, not we can be tellers, right? But it's that collaborative approach. And then last but not least, a whole lot of your audience, I'm sure, has heard about Simon Sinek and why, how, what. And I've alluded to purpose and values and all this stuff. Incumbent in all of our work, and it's been this way since the founding of the company, we are purpose driven, values guided, and it makes a difference to really, I think the disruption to actually slow folks down and go, what is it you really provide in the products you sell, right? Or make or do or whatever. And that slow down to speed up is disruptive in the most positive, cool way.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you. Okay,
Yeah,
last question is, what is the number one thing that we can all do today? What step can everyone on this call, what step can we all take to drive more revenue to our businesses? With all of this information, there's like a lot that I'm looking at, but what can I do this afternoon?
I'm the key to the door, any door. The key to the door you just named is when I hear myself talk in compliments or criticism,
Yeah,
shift to behavior. Oh my God, what a great attitude. Whoa, 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 time out. What made what was just done so good?
yeah,
Because I can replicate the behavior. I can't replicate the compliment.
yeah. I really love that. That actually piggybacks, I've never really liked when I've learned in management training years ago about the compliment sandwich, right? You
Oh
put
God.
something nice and then some constructive criticism, and it just seems so phony to me. It's manipulative. And I think that people
Well,
can feel it, right? So I love that, like, you can eliminate that.
100%. And just for the audience and just for your own education as well, about 12 years ago, enough research was done that feedback sandwich doesn't actually work. It's actually ineffective with the way the brain synapses work because I know the sandwich is coming. The
Right.
potency, the potency of personal and strategic is, oh, there's sincere care, and make no mistake, there's sincere expectation
Yes.
about the behavior and the performance. Those two things are both pure. There is no sandwich. Now the question is, what are you going to do differently to get this? Because I want you to be successful,
Yeah.
right? And magic question, what can I do to support you? Because I don't want to keep having this conversation,
Yeah.
and neither do
It's
you.
true. It goes back to what you're talking about the putting out the fire once. I've said before in the business, I haven't said fire. I said I feel like I'm playing whack-a-mole. And it
Yeah,
is
same deal.
exhausting to take that energy over and over and over. It's can be so much better, placed moving the business forward. So
Well,
I
and
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, I
yeah.
love what
I
you're
mean,
doing.
imagine working through a day where you're touching tables or touching people, metaphorically, touching people that are with supportive. Wow, I appreciate the way you handled that call. Whoa, the way you carried X, right? The way, whatever it is, mechanical, physical, emotional, instead of that whack-a-mole going, oh my God, I'm going around going, yeah, team, yeah, team, yeah,
Yeah,
team.
yeah, for sure.
Right?
We have a couple questions that are coming in.
Okay.
I do have a quick question for you before we get started, but I want to give everyone enough time because we could do this all day, and maybe we
Oh,
will after the call is over. I'll call you back. Um, but my question for you is, I have a remote team. We get together in person every once in a while. A lot of people on this call are remote and have remote teams. It's really what we're seeing post-pandemic, that this is the
mhm.
trend that's not going to change.
Yeah.
So how do we best create culture with a remote team? And how do we best identify those behaviors and address them on a remote team where we're not physically together all the time? I don't hear someone on the phone.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm the good news and the bad news. I'm old enough to have survived the first gen of virtual companies,
Okay.
right? Way before the pandemic. And for what it's worth to everybody that's on the call, my team is virtual. We've got 270 team members that are spread out around the United States and in the world. And even our full-time team that is 6 folks are spread out all over the country as well. So this goes back to the systems, I think. How do we do our numbers? How do we communicate? And we be conscious of that. So when there is we've talked a lot about during the pandemic and post-pandemic about Zoom fatigue, right? Or meets fatigue, whatever medium
Mhm.
we're using, right? But the reality is what if this Zoom meeting right now was simply you're in the room next door and whoever else is on the call is, we're just meeting in our offices
Mhm.
and the connection is actually here. So from a yogic place, a Gestalt place, this virtual is actually connection. Certainly in person is so much better. This goes back to the systems and the approach to behavior. How do we talk? Do we have the camera on? Are they off? Do we allow, I don't honestly, I don't care if you're in your pajamas. I don't care if Max is sitting on your lap. In fact, that's one of the gifts we got from the pandemic, right?
Mm.
Is I can have if I'm a cat or a dog or a monkey person, whatever, whatever, name the pet. All of a sudden we're human. So let's be human. And the conversation is guidepost. Is what I said and did adding value, doing no harm? Does that little knife twist, little barb that gets thrown at
Yeah,
the end, or does the sarcasm add value? If it
yeah,
doesn't, don't do it,
yeah.
right? So
Love that.
we begin, exactly. So another piece, remote or not, I honestly, I mean, and I realize this is also disruptive. I don't care how many hours a week you work. I just need the deadline met.
Yeah.
Right? So as long as we're getting the results, here's what happens. The accountability is a value. The accountability and the hitting the deadline is the value. That's what's important, whether we're remote or not. And then can we show up and own, God, man, I'm really groggy. I've got a bad day, but I'm here,
Yeah.
right? I'm here and I own the stuff I'm in, however we move forward. So to me, that's the opportunity. And then the um, the other piece is there's so much out there about meetings suck, right? Meetings are
Mhm.
horrible. And especially in this remote world, any Zoom call is a meeting, right? It feels different than getting together sometimes in real time. So the real conversation is how do we make the most? How do we make these engagements positive, supportive, and effective? Oh, we do it with behavior, data instead of stories, right? Data and performance and behavior instead of drama,
Mhm.
right? Etc. Add value, do no harm. So to me, those are the big headlines.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. And I think honestly, we were saying about with the cat and the dog and the kids, I think that was one of the biggest gifts from that time is that, especially for women, we no longer have to compartmentalize. We no longer have to pretend that we don't have families with work, and we don't have to pretend with families that we don't have work. It was for a long time we were expected to do both excellently, like neither world existed. And it's really ripped
100
the veil off of that for us.
100% with
Men too. Yeah.
gender equity, whatever we're talking about. What does inclusion look like rather than
Mhm.
exclusion? What does equity look like instead of inequity, Exactly, right? And then the question becomes, all right, well, maybe now getting together in person is a real treat and it
Yeah.
becomes a retreat, right? Or whatever. But in some way, shape, or form, let's own the worlds we live in and the multiple truths. That's where this conscious communication piece, there's a whole litany of tool sets behind that. Add value, do no harm, be kind, not nice, etc.
I love it. I'm going to get to some of these questions.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yolanda said, I love the different aspects of communication. This is so good. I love the different aspects of communication. How do you decide what type of communication is best in which situation? Great question.
Behavior. Here's the court. Yeah. Behavior based, data based. So however I get there. So for instance, God, your attitude just sucks, right? Likely I say that I'm going to have a fight. However, hey, you missed the last 3 team calls. What's going on?
Yeah.
Right? Very different. Missing the last 3 team calls is data. There's not going to be a debate. And I'm reaching out from quote guide or ally, what's going on? So from that model that I shared with you, the ally guide, the questions and the please share build relationship, they build trust, right? So if we stay with data, we stay in that emotional intelligence outcome of being interested, being caring. At the same time, we expect and need and drive performance.
Mhm. I
So
love that.
hopefully that at least gets us a little closer to the answer that's
Yeah.
been
And I
asked.
think there's probably times where two different styles could probably, and then it comes more of like, how do you show up in your most authentic way,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, 100%. More directly back to the Patty Wilson model that I
Right.
shared, that circle is, and it's so fun, is if I try ally, hey, would you be willing to share more? Plop. I don't get what I want. What would it take for you to share more? Plop. Please share more, right? I'm going to shift the position because I'm aware that my choice was ineffective. It's not about you, it's about me and my choice and my habit.
Yeah.
So change my habit and actually be conscious to get the outcome I want. Oh, I plopped twice, change the position,
Yeah.
right?
Do you guys see how awesome he is? We can do this forever. Okay. We don't have any other questions right now unless you guys have any to drop in, but I'll read to you a couple comments that we've received. Susan had said that it reminds her of a picture she saw of a rowboat. 6 people are rowing hard in the right direction. 2 people are sitting there because the boss is not looking, and the last 2 are drilling holes in the back of the boat. Those last 4 have to go, and you don't want them on your team. And then she also mentioned that the positivity increases the employee's desire to perform, and it's
Yeah,
real.
yeah.
But yeah, you're right. That I had a coach tell me once, Susan, that if you don't have employees that are operating at a 7 or above, they are sinking your business.
Yeah, we
Um,
don't even, if we know what a 10 is. So first define excellence enough that I know what 10 is in my company. We don't even hire a 7 or less. Forget. Here's one of my favorite questions for interviews. Please define common sense. And
writing that down.
in in your experience, how would you rate yourself in your own definition as having common sense? And I swear to God, about 50% of the population will say 6 or less. Guess what? To even get the second interview to get hired or whatever, to even the interview's over. It's got to be a 7 or above, right? Because they just gave me
Yes.
right? So this is not a written question. You don't want to write it down. You want to ask this verbally and see the response, right? In your own words, define common sense, right? And now on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate yourself with your own definition, right?
Yeah,
And just to watch the experience, oh my God, it's so fun.
that's really interesting. I had a recruiter once share this with me, and I love this. She would say, on a scale of 1 to 10, how lucky do you feel you've been in your life and why? And if the answer was less than, I think it was like a 7, move on, because it's really about having that growth mindset, right? Of someone who says, I've had setbacks and I've had things happen, but I'm really am lucky because I have, it's that growth mindset, right? And
Yeah.
that's what we're looking for as well. And common sense is, it's more rare than I would like to believe it is, but it is certainly a
Well, you
quality.
know, yeah, one of my uh, cliched sayings almost is there is no common sense. It's gone, right? Because the concept, common sense comes out of shared behavior and shared cultural alignment.
Yeah,
And
that's
we've
true.
got so much multiplicity, so many different ways of being raised, so many norms that are not, from the 1950s in white America, right?
Mhm.
There's so many, or any, name a color, country, whatever, it's irrelevant. There's so many dissimilar, or so many folks that are just left to their own devices. Don't depend on common sense. I've got to download. This is disruptive. As an owner, it's on me to download my thinking and wanting for what excellence is in my company.
Yeah,
It's not for you to figure out what I need. That is inefficient beyond words. Take the time to download your head, heart, mind, and desire for accomplishment, and guess what? You'll get it.
I love that. Yolanda sent through a question. How do you address the decreasing attention span when you do Zoom meetings? I hope that's not an indication, Yolanda. No, I'm going to tell you what
I,
I think. Keep them short, right? Keep them short
I
and keep a strong agenda.
and certainly that, certainly stay on the agenda. I would say have the meeting be engaged as
Yeah,
opposed to a talking head
sure.
preaching, right? So what does engagement look like? How do you, again, go back to that Patty Wilson circle that I asked? How does the leader in a meeting ask questions that it pulls people in as opposed, right? And what is the goal and what define the expectation? I expect to hear your voice. We expect to, right? What is the point of the meeting? Is it to listen and just swallow? Is it to provide feedback? Is it to have me make a decision? Is it for us to make a decision? The more I define the expectation and then honor it, the easier and the more engaging the meeting is.
I
But
love.
with some talking head, forget it, right? You're gone.
Yeah, and I think it's so easy now. Like we were saying before, to go off camera, to mute yourself and go off camera. But truly, like etiquette wise, man, don't do that if you're in a team meeting because it's just, it when someone can't make that eye contact with you, even on a 2D format, but for me, it really bugs me because if I'm in, whether it's a team meeting or like a sales conversation and someone's off camera, it feels vulnerable if you're the one on camera and someone is not showing up that way. And then what do you do? It's like a weird, you tell me what you think. I
Well,
feel like it just makes a weird dynamic.
well, here's what we know from brain science.
Okay.
The translation, everybody in the audience, and you and I right now, we're translating, even as anyone's listening to me or not listening, They're paying attention to you and I. 7% comes from words. 45% comes from body language. 48% comes from tone of voice. So we turn the camera off. 45% is gone. We turn you on mute as well. Now 93% is gone. And especially if you're the receiver and I need to track how my team is receiving, or anyone on the team is receiving feedback from anyone, we are literally blind.
Yeah.
So instead of losing 93% of the translation, what's the protocol, right? At any rate, what's the protocol? That becomes a really interesting piece. And with the science of emotional intelligence, what's really interesting, this is wild. With emotional intelligence, if something is said or done that offends or hits me with an emotional trigger, and who knows for any of us what that's going to do. The optic nerve takes in the visual and bypasses the frontal lobe and goes right to limbic, to an emotion, fight or flight. Same thing auditorily, same thing. We're not going to worry about olfactory on Zoom. We haven't figured
Right.
that one out yet, right? But with our hearing and certainly with our eyes, literally the brain bypasses the frontal lobe in the thinking and goes right to fight or flight. So bam, turn it off, and we miss that emotive piece. This is science. This is not woo-woo.
Okay, so I have to cut you off. I thank you so much. Please get in touch with Rudy if you have questions, if you want to take a deeper dive. He is just an incredible resource and has so much knowledge. I learn from him every time we get to connect. Next week, you guys, we have Shoshana French with Simple Spirit, and Shoshana is going to teach us how to use our intuition to make decisions in our businesses that will hopefully drive more revenue to our businesses. So she is amazing to teach us really how to tune into ourselves to create really, really intuitive direction. And I hope I didn't mess it up. I hope I set her up for success with that one, because she's amazing and I've learned so much from her as well. So thank you guys so much for coming. Rudy, you are amazing. I could do this all day with you. You're the best. And we look forward to seeing you guys next week. Have a great day. Bye, guys.